Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. I am, as ever and as always, your host, the Lore Runner. The worst video gamer ever, at least according to Dean Badeen. This way. So as usual, I do like to put show news right at the front so people don't have to watch the whole thing in order to be able to get the show news. So a couple of quick show news tidbits, super quick alike. First and foremost, we are immediately discontinuing the Escrow concept with regards to subs, donations, and otherwise attempts at funding the show. Anybody who has any money currently in Escrow needs to tell me immediately where you want it to be allocated towards, otherwise it's just going to be defaulted to dealer's choice. Those people would include Camper Darby, Eclectic Oak, Jesse Ward, Narset6691, and Mr. Red 97. Please get back to me on that as soon as you possibly can. If you're wondering why we're discontinuing the escrow concept, well, the problem with economic transactions is you need to have a fairly substantial amount of standardization in order for people to understand and discuss them and not have issues or problems. We have had no less than 5 separate complications arise from confusion over the last week with regards to the escrow concept, which is unacceptable. It is also an unnecessarily large amount of extra paperwork and irritation on me, which admittedly is on me. You know, I'm the one who opened up the concept, but in practice it didn't work at all, especially because the aforementioned lack of standardization. In point, several people have actually, like, the very format by which people would make requests wasn't the same as what other people would make requests, which would lead to confusions about what one person wants to put towards something else, and this one goes over here, and you get the general concept. So we're nixing that immediately. I will put yours towards Justified, Jesse Ward. Speaking of which, I just wanted to share a little factoid while we're here. So some of you may or may not be aware of the fact that Cyberpunk was one of the most funded runs ever. It has been surpassed. Can anyone guess what surpassed it? When I say funded, I mean in terms of not just money, but more importantly in terms of interest, how many people have put it. In other words, the highest priority. FF14? Okay, technically yes. Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to do the math on that because I tracked that per expansion. So possibly FF14, but also no. Can anyone else guess? New Vegas? Nope. Nobody wants New Vegas. WoW BC is correct. World of Warcraft, the Burning Crusade expansion, has surpassed Cyberpunk in both axes. To give you some specific figures, Cyberpunk had 48 people put money towards it. WoW BC has had 55 people put money towards it. So, while not a lot of interest has been put towards the other WoW expansions, Lord knows that a lot of people want me to cover BC. Go figure. Okay, next thing. So one of the things that I have not been doing my due diligence on, and I'm going to start trying to do my due diligence on this, and I'm going to mention it here so more people hear it, is I want you all to know that I am actually grateful for you all being my spy network. I want you to continue to be my spy network. I know plenty of content creators, myself included, tend to act a little bit frustrated when we hear something for the 30th time in a particular day. That's a semi-common thing. We've turned it into a pseudo-joke, you know, the drinking game. That's how you keep me hydrated. But all that being said, I do want you to keep doing that. It is useful, and obviously you never know if you're the first person or the 50th person in a given day to say something, and there's no way to know that, so I'd rather you just continued sharing information. Please keep doing that. It is definitely useful. Please continue to be the spy runners, or the lore spies, whichever way you want to think of that as. I have, in fact, heard of the High Elves. What I've not heard about is Dragonheart being awesome. Dragonheart 1, 2, Suzerain. Thank you very much, Dragonheart, as always. It's going towards Suzerain. So please keep... Oh, hey, it actually popped. Right after 10, of course. Of course. Anyways. So we're discontinuing Escrow, Spy Network thing. I'm trying out a new QA bot, so I'm going to actually turn this on live on camera. And we're going to see exactly how this works here. So let's go ahead and enable this. maybe. It was having some troubles just a few days ago when I was trying to enable it during a previous stream, which was had some dull times. It's giving me troubles again right now. I don't know who Vantalord is. I don't know who the Rogue is. I barely know what TikTok is. I know that the 49ers suck. I'm curious how much the Chiefs are going to get stomped on tonight. Because they're going to get stomped on. They're the Chiefs. Anybody who's following that knows what I mean by that. But what's doubly funny is the Chiefs are technically in the running right now. It's just, yeah, no, they're going to get stomped. Why is this not saving? Okay, hang on. So let's just activate this. Let's see if this does this here. Give me 1 second. Okay, new panel. Done. Alright, now there should be a Q&A panel right now. Oh, trading is totally fine, Jesse Ward. But the way it's going to work is very simple. At the moment of the trade, that's when you tell me what it goes towards, if that makes sense. In fact, by the way, thank you for reminding me. I actually opened up... So, okay, hang on. Let's go back to the escrow concept. Sorry. I forgot to cover something. So, back on the escrow concept... So obviously I understand that some people can't be online at the same time as other people, and so for a grand total about 6 people have wanted to trade in general, so obviously, you know, you want some ways to coordinate with each other. So the way this is going to work is I actually open up a separate channel on Discord, wherein you can go and decide who you want to trade with or make trades or whatever. You can do whatever on that front. I don't actually care about the back end at all. All I care about is the final result, which is what you will actually do when you make the donation. When that message goes through on stream, that's when you put it towards something. That's when it's put towards something. Pretty much, period. Sense, Mick? So, that's that. I guess I don't actually have anything else to add to that. Thank you very much, Polycus. Always. I don't know what I'm putting that towards, but I'll put it towards something. And thank you for a full year of support. You were awesome. Welcome to the Year Club. And you're putting that anniversary sub towards Diablo 1. So Jalu, 10, Diablo 1. I swear to God, the next person who says Rouge instead of Rogue will get stabbed in the face. Now, let's see if I can get this stupid thing working. So supposedly the Q&A panel is up. It's supposed to, like, we're kind of figuring this out live here. I've been trying to find an extension to help keep track of Q&A content. Whoops. Especially as a consequence of, so when we did the last Polemic Day stream, it actually worked out quite well. No, Lord Harriman, I actually am whistling this in the back. Yes, this is Stellaris music. And the problem was, the thing that made it work out so well was there were 2 separate people who were keeping track of the questions and then putting them down into a document so I could keep track of them and read them out loud. It was a great format. Thing is, that requires a second person, so I was trying to find a bot to do that. Yeah, exactly. So you could enter questions into, like, a queue, and the queue can then hold on to it for me, and then I could look at it and be like, aha! You know, that's the general idea there. So I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to make this work. I don't know how it's going to tell me when there's questions, and that's kind of the general direction here, so let's see if I can actually make any freaking saves this time to this program. But it's still not letting me, so whatever. So let's pull up stream itself. So I'm going to pull up my own stream and just kind of sit here. I'm totally defending this spot. I'm definitely not alt-tabbed. You know, let's make sure I'm muted. Let's make sure I'm paused. Okay, so here's the Q&A. It looks like it might DM me, although I hope it doesn't, because I don't have DMs. I have no method by which to receive DMs. No, I have not, Darth Medora. No idea what you're talking about. It's probably Bob! I knew it! Bastard. He's gonna kill Doctor Strange. Because he's tired of Strange having an unusual name. Let's go. Is that up? No, that's over here. That's at the beach. Thank you, FN Craig. I will put that towards the Metroid block. His name is very strange. I actually agree with that. Why is this not loading? What is wrong with this Okay, so apparently we're not even going to be able to test this thing, because this doesn't even want to load. Hang on, so that's FN Craig Metroid block. Done. Yeah, I know, right, Twister? Lou apparently had the same idea I did. Let's not. Let's bow out. That's a no. Let them fight over that. Yeah, apparently Easel Games. Hi, Mihawk. It really is not loading. Can anyone else see? Is anyone else seeing the stream Q&A panel? It's down. If you scroll down, it'll be on the panels, you know, where like the schedule is and all that stuff. Is that there? Is it loading? Because it is not loading for me, and I don't know what the frel. Maybe if I... Hang on, let's try something else. I just had a thought. Yeah, exactly. Nothing's loading. Like, I see the panel, but it's just sitting there going, loading. And it's just been doing that for however many minutes at this point. I don't think I can make that happen. Not alone. But I'm going to go for it. Yeah, it's there, but it's not working. Like, I can't do anything with it. It's, you just hop onto Discord, Jesse Ward, and it's there. You're not in the Lore Walker Discord, are you? Got it. Never mind. Well, what you do is you get you can invite to the Lore Walker Discord from Bragwin or Valvedrix or any of the mods. Okay, hang on. So let me test something. It might just be bluggered. I mean, we might just not be able to get that. I might have to look for another thing. Nope. Pause. It might just... Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! God damn it. All right. There was a freaking pop-up over the pause button. I couldn't pause my own stream. It's like, hey, did you know? No, shut up. It's not loading here either, though. So, that sucks. It looks like that plugin just straight up does not work. Okay, well, let's, all right. That sucks. All right, let's delete that because it just doesn't work on the back end or the front end. Let's see if we can find another one here. Let's die. Very important part of the process. Let's try to delay people before we die. It's as much as we can hope for when we're not actually paying attention. Thank you, Zero. And I will flex. Oh, you mean you want to flex. Okay, you can flex all you want. If you know what you want to put that towards, please let me know. I knew it, Darth Medoro. You're banned on Twitch forever for mentioning a rumor. Why would you be banned on Twitch for... Why would that get you in trouble on Twitch? Unless it's a spoiler thing, in which case, yeah, that would make perfect sense. Whoops. It's up. It's up. Well, I'm probably dead. That's okay. I accept death. Death is acceptable. 14 is super duper funded. Stop putting money towards 14. Quit it! It's not allowed. Ever again. Just gonna slow mode my way up here. Don't mind me. That's true. On Twitch, you can be banned for mentioning... I can't think of any baked goods all of a sudden. Donuts? I mean, that's not a brand, though. You could be banned for mentioning Wonder Bread, which is honestly garbage. Like, just Wonder Bread is just junk. Don't get Wonder Bread. Get something real. It doesn't work that way, Regibrock. No. I will literally veto it. Alright, so we've got... So that didn't work. So we uninstalled that one. We've got a viewer questions thing. Let's try this one. Yep, that's nice. We've also got a live questions thing. So let's try one of these here. Thank you, Spartan, as always. I will put that towards the Metroid block, if you give me a second here. J42. Okay, so let's see if we can get these actually freaking working. So we deleted that. So let's activate. Let's try the viewer questions one first. No, get off mic. Go away. Okay, so let's set this as panel 3. Just want... You'd think this would be a thing, right? Actually, my first research when I was looking into this wasn't for extensions. It was just a bot. Because what I figured was there'd just be a way you could just type !Q and then list your question and then it would save it somewhere. And what I found was absolutely freaking nothing. I didn't find jack for just something as so basic as a Q&A bot. You'd think that would be really common, but I guess most people don't do Q&A streams? I don't know. I don't know how people do things. This is not loading. You got it, 0 Give me 1 moment to die really quick here. I already have deleted it, Von Falkenstein, because it literally wasn't working. I don't really have a lot of use for something that is quite literally not working. Okay, speaking of which, that one isn't even turning on, so we'll delete that one, too. Okay. So let's try the third one here. Activate. Panel 3. Please. Hey, it actually activated. Holy schmoly. Getting frustrating. Alright, so live panel. Live questions. What do we got here? I don't understand what I'm looking at. And 0 is putting yours towards the Zelda block, save. Listen, all I'm saying is that all questions must die. There's no configuration. Alright, whatever. So let's see what this new one looks like, because there's now a new panel. Let's see if this actually does anything. Pause. Okay, so there's the new panel. It should be loading. It should definitely load. It should definitely not just sit there in loading forever. What the crap, Twitch? Oh my god. It's not loading. Is it loading for anybody else? If you hit refresh? Let's see if I can sneak up here. That's a no. That's a warrior. I'm not even gonna try that by myself. Not happening. Well, okay, if other people are going up, I'll go up too. But I'm not fighting a warrior by myself. That's stupid. Ah, it's already too late anyways. Yeah, me too, Dakota. It's the exact same thing I'm saying. It's just sitting there in loading state, waiting. What the crap? That's 3 completely separate and unique plugins, all of whom either don't load, don't work, or don't load. Are you freaking kidding me with this crap? Fine. Have your pitiful, measly little life. Are we losing yet? I don't even know what color we're playing today. Whoops. Let's distract yellow for a minute. Or not even get off a single cast. Apparently we're playing red today. Thank you for watching my show, Mr. Red. Sonic 2D block here. Alright, so that's not working either. That's great. Yeah, it's not even loading if I pull a pop out. What the crap? Alright, fine. We'll delete that too. Delete. What would be the point of that, though, Twister? I mean, I get your point, and you might be right, but you see why that's so useless if that's true. We lost yet? Wow, we are astonishingly behind. I'm just gonna stand here. Alright, okay, well, that appears to have been a colossal failure. Let's see here. Yay, we lost. Everything. I'm queuing now if anybody wants to join me, Mr. Red. If you don't want to say anything. Man, screw that. I'm not getting a human. Humans suck. You kidding me? Oh, right. Easel donated. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. This... invite. Zero, you coming? Yes, no. You have 10 seconds to respond. Thank you, Easel Games. As always. And I'll put that towards Empire of Sin. Alright. Maverick, yes, no. You have 10 seconds. See, I thought about that, Java. That's why I tried a separate browser. Same problem. Also, if it isn't loading for you all, which is why I asked you guys to check it, then, well, that doesn't help either. Maverick is not, because Maverick hates getting experience. Do not blame you. I hate leveling as well. Boop. Boop. Okay. Give me one more moment. Let me look at something here. Oh, that's cute. Hang on, 0. There are a couple bits of random news. This does not... This is such an... I guess we'll come back to this. We'll circle back to this at some point. There has got to be some way to set up a Q&A bot. There's no way that someone hasn't set up a thing, because it's such a basic functionality. I need someone to... I need it to take an exclamation mark command, which then logs it in like a Google Doc, which is publicly editable, so that's easy. And then I could just pull up the Google Doc and say, hey, there it is. Whatever. We'll come back to that. Maybe. Or maybe we'll give up on it forever. Moving on. Let's hit some random news. In just a second, as soon as I get all my documents going, and leave this thing, and then this thing, and this thing. Hang on. I've got a lot of documents up today, because I got a lot of crap to keep track of today. Oh my god, I have so much stuff to keep track of. Okay, so. Random news. Did you know that there's a Cuphead show? It looks horrific and terrible. But of course, I will not be... no, I haven't. Imperial Star Destroyer, that's a good idea. I will not be covering it. So that's... I'm just going to say right now, veto, if anybody wants to add that to the Streaminations. But for anybody who happens to rather like that particular art style, it will probably be good? Maybe? I don't know. But it looks like Cuphead, so that it certainly is accomplishing its general goal. I'm like 90% convinced to just abandon my Tumblr at this point, Pastor of Muppets. However, yes, it is still the best Q&A setup that I have seen, in general. The problem is, most people go to my Tumblr to ask complex questions, and I don't have time to answer those. Like, I could just give you a super brief, dumb answer, but most people come to the Tumblr and say, hey, so I'm trying to design this particular character. Here's some backstory of the character. I would like advice on this character. I understand that, I need time to think about that, which I don't have. So I just kind of don't answer my Tumblr Q&A. And you'll notice I haven't answered a Tumblr Q&A in 2 weeks at this point. So, I don't. That was quick. So I'm thinking about just abandoning it because I just don't have the time to do it properly. Even though it's still probably the best Q&A format I've seen. Hey, we got the good one. Yeah, I know, right, Easel Games? There's a reason why I'm trying to get 2 pieces of work done at the same time, Easel Games. Fortunately, I barely have to pay attention to this now. Anyways, FN Craig is insane, so thank you very, very much, FN Craig. I do always appreciate that support, and I will put that towards... I have absolutely no idea what. But if you do, you can tell me, and then I can put it towards it, and then it can be awesome. By the way, Mr. Red, you have 2 donations to allocate. Do so now or die. I don't understand the question, Easel Games. I'm sorry. Kingdom Hearts Plot, you got it. Done. Other random news. Hitman 3 finally came out. I, unfortunately, have not had time to be able to actually go through and do a full in-depth research onto this matter. However, there are a couple of caveats which I can tell just at a cursory glance. Just allocate it, Mr. Ed. You missed the announcement earlier. Don't worry about it. Just allocate. Anyways, so we're discontinuing Escrow. So that's what it is. Sorry, I just realized it's quicker to say that. First problem with Hitman 3 is the fact that it's coming out full price. That's an interesting topic that I don't want to talk about, so I'm not going to. However, the second problem is that they have a completely unnecessarily stupid pricing scheme set up in order to confuse people because they're dumb and they're stupid. There's actually a term for this. It's called a confusopoly, which was termed by Scott Adams when referring to insurance sales all the way back in the 90s. But it continues to be true. It's a very common economic model where you try to make purchasing your product as confusing as possible so that people who aren't willing to actually do their due diligence on figure out what goes where will misapply money, and then they'll give you more money than they should in order to get the services they don't want or need. Yeah, see, phone companies, cable companies do that. Internet companies like to do that. Internet IP providers, or internet provider, excuse me. There's a lot of things. Yeah, there's literally a flowchart. I will be linking the flowchart for anybody curious in the link to this very VOD on Loreweek, on the Loreweek YouTube channel. So, if anybody wondering, this is stupid. So, the price thing, the stupid thing, unacceptable. Moving on. We also have to talk about YouTube Originals. How many of you even know what that is, real quick? Anybody? No? Okay. So, YouTube Originals has been effectively canned. There's a little bit of politics and behind the scenes on this, and honestly, I should pause here. I don't actually have a lot of in-depth information on this one, but I do know that it's being canned in favor of stupidity. Susanna Daniels, who is actually the global head of the Originals program, has left the company under totally not mysterious circumstances. So who knows where the hell that's going with. It should probably be worth mentioning that YouTube Originals, I did actually bother to look this up, was generating quite a bit of a viewing audience. So there's probably either some kind of agenda at play here, or an economic reason, aka not making all the money in the universe, or some other kind of stupidity that is leading to this thing. Why am I always the one who has to pick up the key? So that sucks. But meanwhile, let's talk about Raven. So some of you may or may not be aware of the fact that the Raven QA team has been making an attempt to unionize. In fact, they have been on strike since about the 3rd week, I want to say, of December, something like, I forget the exact date, but they have been on strike since December. And a lot of people have been putting forth, positivity towards that and support towards that and blah, 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 blah. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is there's actually a couple of caveats here which a lot of people have not been reporting on. That's going to be a running trend, given the next topic we're going to talk about, because a lot of news sites are either misleadingly reporting or actively giving incorrect information about two big news efforts that happened this week. And one of them is this thing. A lot of people are saying they're the first union ever made. Enormous amount of people saying this is the first video game union. That's cool. Everything's cool. All that's a lie. So let's talk about this for a moment. The way this works is there's an organization called, and I wrote down the exact title here, it's the National Labor Relations Board, NLRB. Now that's here in the States, obviously. Let's just get that out of the way. This is a stateside thing. But here in the States, we have the NLRB. The way that this works is you have to demonstrate that at least 30% of your workforce has decided to go ahead and elect to form a union. What then happens is the NLRB does a fairly complex, but otherwise fairly simple, I know that sounds contradictory, but I swear it is true, thing by which they do an anonymous vote in order to ratify and legally recognize that particular union. That vote requires majority. For those of you not aware of what majority means, in this case, it means simple majority, aka 50% plus 1. So it has to be over half by any amount whatsoever. That is what is required in order to make this happen. Now, hang on, there is a caveat here, because everything legally has a caveat. And the caveat is that if a group of people actually can sit down and say, hey, we've decided to gather evidence, which usually comes in the form of signed authorization cards, to ask the employer to voluntarily acknowledge that they have a union, they can do so. In about 99.99%, that is not an exaggeration, of cases, the employer will never take that into account. They will never acknowledge that, and they will always deny actually acknowledging that union. So generally speaking, here in the States, the only way to go through with actually having any kind of union power or legally recognized union organization is to go through the NLRB, get the 30% to start a vote, and then get the 50% plus 1 to ratify the vote. One moment, let me go ahead and start this boss fight. There we go. Let me contribute to the boss fight. Hang on. Yeah, there we go. I've contributed. Okay, we're cool. So, this is the nature of how a union works. Now, obviously, we're running into a bit of the legality versus reality concept, because there's a difference between a union legally and a union in terms of, just common parlance. For example, if I say, if several people in chat decide to unionize and say, Lore, unless you play this hentai game. I don't know why you picked that, but whatever. No, hang on. Let's pick a game. Unless you play Cuphead, we're gonna stop donating. Obviously, that would qualify as a union. However, that does what that does also mean is that is legally distinct from a union, from unionizing, from being a legally recognized union, from having legal protections of a union, from being able to call a company to task for certain things, from having a union representative between them. All the functions and mechanisms of a union legal version are different from you guys unionizing. Sense make? Nevertheless, quite a few news outlets are reporting that the Raven QA team has unionized. This is not true. As of right now, they have not yet gone through the actual legal step of actually having the 50% plus one required for ratification. It is worth noting they are currently going through that step. So you might say that the difference is inconsequential, but again, I feel like it is important and relevant to... Come on. Let's leave it behind. Boop. It is actually, yeah, exactly, Microbyte. It is worth keeping in mind actual factual information rather than misreporting. There's another relevance, though. So this morning, or actually last night at, I wrote down the time, at about 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time yesterday, right before what would be considered closing time on overtime hours, the group of people who had been striking stopped striking. The strike has been discontinued. Now, hang on. They have specifically stated that they have done this, and I'll be giving a link to the tweet of this in case you decide to read it for yourself. As always, I post my information because some of this is interpretive. But the way they have stated this is they have done this as a good faith gesture in order to try and convince the group at Actiblizzard and later on, obviously Microsoft, in order to acknowledge them as a legally ratified union and blah, 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 blah. So, if I can make at least one person giggle every day, I've done my job. That's all I'm saying. I'm not funny to begin with, so yeah, what they have done is they've stopped the strike in order to say, yes, please authorize. Do keep in mind they are not yet a union. This is important. They have stopped striking in order to help convince the company to ratify and legalize their unification. But they are not yet a union. Now, this is extraordinarily important of a distinction because in this case, what they're doing is they're treating the people ahead of them, the Ravensoft team and the Actiblizzard team, and eventually the Microsoft team, like they're human beings, and they're not. I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as a statement of fact. These are entities, organizations, bodies, and companies. You cannot treat them like you treat Bob from across the hall. It's different the way that works. And it shouldn't be, in my honest opinion, but that's another topic. The point is you have to treat them like they are an entity. You have to treat them like they are a legal body that does not operate as a person with sensibility and empathy and reason. So, they should, in my honest opinion, they should probably go and keep striking. But they've stopped the strike. Now, they have flat out stated that they are currently awaiting the formal NLRB unionization vote. That's something that's going through. Blah, 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 blah. We'll see where that goes. I should probably mention something that's going to be relevant here. So, one of the things that's being reported with regards to the acquisition, which we'll be talking about in just a minute, is that several people have mentioned that in the documents themselves, I will be linking those documents themselves in the Loreweek VOD, as usual. It's a 92-page document. Thank you for eating up my free time this week, Microsoft. But anyways, so I'm not joking about it. It's a 92-page document. Anyways, so one of the things that's been reported is that there's 3 points. No strike has been mentioned in the document. No material allegations, as in the current allegations against the Actiblizzard staff, and no material adverse effects from the legal proceedings, aka the 2 lawsuits, which are still going forward right now with regards to Actiblizzard. Now, first of all, that's actually a lie. Those things are actually referenced in the document, so that's cool. But more to the point, unfortunately, that statement is still partially accurate because of the wonderful, horrific nature of what is referred to as material. Now, I've actually already mentioned this. I have already stated what this means. I've already stated how this works. But to refresh you, for those of you who didn't hear me talk about this when we first brought up the very nature of the Actiblizzard lawsuits, Material is a legal defining term. What it means in short parlance is that it is something that is substantial to the business as a whole. So something that would cost Actiblizzard, this is just a rough spitballing figure, $7 million, would actually not be material, because that is not material to the operation and function of the company as a whole. For the record, I disagree with this concept. I get the logic behind it. The logic behind it is you don't want to bog down the shareholders and the board with every tiny little nuanced detail that happens in a company, of which there are thousands upon thousands. But I feel like this is being used a little bit too technically in order to complete bypass situations exactly like this. Because that's exactly what's happening. And again, I have already reported on this. The reason that none of this stuff has been mentioned, the reason they haven't been bringing this up in shareholder meetings, the reason that the Bobby Kotick meeting that happened just last week didn't even refer to any of this stuff is because none of it is material. Because it isn't, in terms of the legal definition. That's stupid. Just wanted to comment on it, because this is a $70 billion company, so you do the math. Now, Hazardous has a question. If only I had a Q&A bot to keep track of these things. Hazardous says, Starbucks is starting to have a union. Cool. Now, Hazardous says, when this union becomes official, assuming it does, what's going to happen to it once Microsoft concludes with the purchase of Actiblizzard? So, by all intents and purposes, nothing. Nothing will change. Nothing will be altered. All that changes is who exactly they are going to be having a union rep with. However, there is one interesting little caveat. So, you do bring up an interesting point. The union rep is currently going to be reporting to Actiblizzard because Actiblizzard still exists and has not been bought yet by Microsoft. That's the big... If you take away nothing else from this Loreweek, Microsoft has not currently bought Actiblizzard. That's a really important caveat that everyone seems to be missing. Not you all, you guys have a brain, but every frickin' news journalist out there has not been picking up on this extremely critical detail. But the reason this is relevant is because all of the legal framework for being a union under Actiblizzard will actually have to undergo changes. The union rep will have to will effectively have to be fired and then either rehired, or they'll have to select another union rep, and they're going to have to change all of the documents at the NLRP, and there's going to be a lot of paperwork and a lot of red tape to switch it over to them being a union under Microsoft. Now, that is the reason that is relevant is because that might be the only tangible reason why they have decided to discontinue striking. Someone might have pointed out that we're going to have to just go through all this song and dance in order to deal with this, yada yada. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but it is nevertheless something that could be kept in mind. Their regards unto. Now, yes, exactly, Hazardous. That's a very good way to put it. Now, let's go ahead. We're gonna really go into this here. Give me one moment. Let me adjust the thing, because we're gonna have to timestamp this, because of course it's okay. We've reached the cutscene portion of the MSQQ, so I don't actually have to worry too much about this. This is the you-know-what topic this is topic. I have spent so much of my free time this week researching this, it's actually irritating. I didn't learn a lot new, if I'm being completely honest, but I always like to do my due diligence, especially with regards to complex topics such as this one, especially when, and yes, I am still irritated by this, how many people are actually misreporting or actively giving inaccurate information about this topic. It depends on if I can actually watch it, by the way, Mr. Red, with regards to the Donkey Kong TV True. I don't care if it's a bad show. What I care about is can I get a digital streaming copy of it, and I have no idea. Moving on. So, big bullet point. The primary bullet point. The biggest topic here. The biggest takeaway. I already said this. I'm repeating this here for anybody who just clicked the timestamp that I'm going to put in the VOD. The deal is not done. This is the beginnings of the deal. In fact, at most, we're at step 2 of this deal. If we were to break that out, there would be, 3, 4, 5, 6... 7, 8 steps. At an absolute bare minimum, we're talking 8 steps for this deal to go through. We are at step 2. We're currently at step 2. We are currently going through step 3. It's okay, Valvedrix. We failed. Thank you for popping on, though. Although, Jesse Ward wants a Discord invite. If you could do that, please. I haven't forgotten to mention Jack, Dakota. I'm going to bring up the EU later. I already answered that, Trihexia. So, yeah, this This is why I need a QA bot for when someone asks an unrelated question while I'm in the middle of a big topic. So, this is a deal that is going through. This is a deal that has... So let's talk about these 8 steps. Let's talk about... that's valid, Dakota. Let's talk about how this kind of a process works. The first step that happens is the people in charge of the 2 companies look at each other. Now, I'm saying that vaguely because the people in charge of the two companies, the people in charge of the 2 corporations, who that is actually varies. That's going to come up later. We'll be talking about that. But either way, the people who actually make the decisions, the money people, as I use that generic term on purpose for this kind of a thing, they have to look at this and say, let's do this. Boom. That's step 1. Step 2 is the boards of both companies going ahead and acknowledging. Now, you notice the board may or may not be the money people. In this case, they're actually not. So the board is in charge of Microsoft, but the board is not in charge of Actiblizzard. So this is actually a second and separate step in this particular topic. The board does have to legally ratify this. Now, it's worth noting that some people think that the board is in charge of a company, and there are many practical reasons that they are. However, the simplest analogy I've ever come up with to explain the board's purpose behind a corporation is the board is the secretary of the dictator. If you don't know what that means, the dictator runs the country, but the secretary runs the country. The secretary may not legally be the one in charge or necessarily be the one actually making the calls, but the secretary is the group or individual or entity or whatever that is actually implementing that, and as a consequence is almost always in a position of tremendous power, especially given that they can interpret, reinterpret, change, and there's all sorts of wonderful things they can do because they're evil. Evil's an oversight, but you get my point, right? There's a lot of crap that they can do. Gonna wait for that to go off. There we go. Okay. Who's this Nero guy? I don't even know this dude. I actually will probably give a negative to story for this because Nero is just such a twat, but that's just me. Yeah, the board are the hammer of the tyrant. That's actually a good way to put that. But it's worth noting that boards are not actually in charge of companies, and that's going to be a distinction that's going to be important in a minute for this exact topic. So I'm not just bringing that up for general information. So, moving on. Let's go ahead and address this. So that's step 2. The board has to ratify. What is step 3? Well, step 3 has to do with the people who actually own the company ratifying the deal. That's the shareholders. That's a lengthy process because the shareholders is not like you can't just pull everyone in a room and say, everyone, raise your hands. It doesn't work that way. There are so many people and so many organizations and so many companies and so many holding firms. There are thousands upon thousands of different groups, entities, and individuals who own Actiblizzard. I'm pretty sure there's probably people in chat who own Actiblizzard stock. Congratulations. You're probably going to get a quiz soon asking you to vote on this matter because that's how that works. By the way, if you own Actiblizzard stock, you should have sold last week. I'm just going to say that right now. Oh yeah, by the way, can I just say I completely freaking called this. I saw this coming a long time ago. I haven't actually talked about that yet. I don't even have that in my notes. I guess I'll mention that last. But anyways, point being, that is step 3. That is the step we are currently in the process of doing. They have to go out to the shareholders and say, hey, yes or no. Okay. Yeah, exactly. That would when the stock price jumped up to, I believe it was 83 something, which was a big hike up. That was the exact moment to sell Actiblizzard stock. Several people actually asked me, should I sell my stock last year? And I said, no, you should wait until it bounces up. And people didn't believe me that it would bounce up. So anyways, now I'm going to go ahead and talk. I'm going to go off topic, off my notes for just a second, because there's something I forgot to mention in my notes. And that is the fact that I saw this coming a while ago. Now, we talked about this on stream over the week, but of course not everyone watches it. I don't expect you to go watch some random stream about, I think, Prey is what we were playing at the time, to learn about this. So, the reason I saw this coming for a while, and I don't know how to properly explain this, so let me start with the summary statement. It makes perfect sense in my head that someone would try to buy Actiblizzard right now. This is the perfect time to buy Actiblizzard. It would actually be legitimately stupid not to buy Actiblizzard right now. Now, the thing is, how many companies really have the financial strength, weight, and capacity to do so right now? There are only 3. I thought there were 4. After doing some more research, I found out that 2K Games is currently having some other problems. So 2K Games does not actually have the fungibility right now to actually make this deal go through. So the other 3 are Microsoft, Tencent, and Sony. Now, Sony wouldn't be terrible, all things considered. I mean, there could be worse things than Sony. I wouldn't care for it personally, but, you know, whatever. However, Tencent would be terrible. Tencent also may still buy Actiblizzard. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Tencent is still a threat as of this very moment. That guy's blue outfit is terrifying. So it is entirely within reasonability that Tencent may decide to step in and procure Actiblizzard. They absolutely have all of the capacity necessary to do so and all of the motivation to do so. And yes, that would be worst case scenario. I legitimately think that Tencent buying Actiblizzard would be worse than Actiblizzard going on as if nothing changed. So, bidding war, we'll get to it. We'll get to it, SJ. I want to go through this in order. But the thing I wanted to mention is I've been seeing this coming for a while because there's a lot of companies making a lot of movements in the gaming space nowadays, and Tencent is one of the bigger ones. I will admit Microsoft surprised me. I will absolutely admit that I did not think Microsoft would go for it. Honestly, I kind of figured it would be I figured it would be Tencent. I was predicting Tencent would buy this. And part of the reason I said, you know, sell out when the stock spikes, I figured what would happen is Tencent would buy them. The stock would spike, like it did. And then people could sell and get the hell out of that trash fire because that's just awful. But anyways. Tencent would win that without hesitation. Trihexia. Tencent has by absolute far and away the most money, capital, influence, and political weight behind it, Trihexia. So Tencent would win that bidding war, 100% guaranteed. So anyways, so getting back to my notes now that we've talked about that particular thing. Let's go ahead and read an actual document here, written by, I think this is Phil Spencer, who wrote this one. But anyway, this is part of the, I'm linking all this stuff in the VOD, but here's a quote for quote thing. This is actually interesting, and I want you to go through this with me. As a company, Microsoft is committed to our journey for inclusion in every aspect of gaming, among both employees and players. We deeply value individual studio... So, hang on, actually, rewind. Yes, they do, Jaludo, and Microsoft will, if everything goes correctly, be buying out portions of that stock, or allowing them to continue to exist under the new label. We'll see, either way. Because they might just get the new Microsoft stock. That's how those kind of transactions work. This is technically a merger, but we'll get to that in a minute. Anyways, all right, back into it. So as a company, Microsoft is committed to our journey for inclusion in every aspect of gaming among both employees and players. Pause. That statement is trying to say something that Microsoft has been very big on lately, and it's actually one of the only reasons why I think this is a good move. Microsoft have been very inclined to trying to have good public relations and having a good face and being the good company. They want to have customer support. They want to have customer trust. That is something that's not new, by the way. They've been pushing for that for years. They've been trying to completely overhaul their agenda, their perspective, their vision, everything, blah, blah, blah. They've been trying to look like we're the okay people to work for and we're the okay people to buy from. Now, the reason I mention that is because that is an image. It may or may not be a truth. I will, hopefully note that there has been no major accusations on the Microsoft side of things, and Microsoft has certainly been doing a lot of cleaning house lately, and I mean lately within the last couple of years. So whether that's actually true or not, that is entirely up to you in order to judge. I'd only mention that because it is relevant for the purchases of something like Actiblizzard, who is at an all-time low when it comes to customer trust and customer support. Moving on. So, we deeply value individual studio cultures. We also believe that creative success and autonomy go hand in hand with treating every person with dignity and respect. We hold all teams and all leaders to this commitment. So, pause. What that states right there is that, in general, Microsoft is really big on allowing the companies that they own to operate under their own provisions. Now, that is actually something that's thus far has been proven to be true. Microsoft has been very big on allowing the various studios that they own to do their own thing, to allow to not be a Microsoft studio, but to be a such and such studio under Microsoft. You know, it's something Disney has done off and on over the years, where they say, here, we give you the money, but you do it and you make something good and you do it your way, with regards to their movies especially. So, yes, this is absolutely something that they have been committing to in faction. Yeah, exactly, Houses. They have been very big on indie support. They have been very big on autonomy. The reason that's relevant is because the sentence right after that says, we also believe that creative success and autonomy go hand in hand with treating every person with dignity and respect. We hold all teams and leaders to this commitment. What is this sentence saying? Now, let me explain something to all of you, because I'm sure most of you get this, but I want to really layer this point down, because this is important, in my opinion. I keep saying this is important. I should stop saying that. Yeah, you do you within reason is exactly what that means. But what this says is we're going to clean up Actiblizzard. That is what this sentence is saying. That is what this sentence is saying. We are going to clean up Actiblizzard. When it comes to financial matters, when it comes to business announcements, when it comes to what you are allowed to say as a public representative of a large-scale corporation, there are rules. Now, we've actually mentioned these rules several times. We've talked about legalese, we've talked about lawyerese, we've talked about financial statements and how they're all just blah, blah, blah. But there are specific rules and regs and functions to how you say these kind of statements. This is important because I know two other people, one of whom is a lawyer, in addition to myself, who look at corpo speech here, who analyze corporate speeches and look at this and say, wow, this is them being as harsh as they possibly can towards Actiblizzard. This is actually kind of surprisingly harsh from Microsoft. They are flat out stating, in legalese corporate terms, Actiblizzard is unacceptable. You're going to have to fall in line. And that is what they're saying. This is not a presumption. This is not a speculation. This is not an impression. This is what the document flat out states. And let's finish the statement. We're looking forward to extending our culture of proactive inclusion to the great teams across Activision Blizzard. There's the hammer right there. You have flat out you are not currently within our culture of proactive inclusion. We look forward to extending our culture of proactive inclusion to the great... That statement is flat out stating that Actiblizzard is not falling in line with regards to actually being a decent company, which I agree with, by the way. So, that's the first thing I wanted to comment on, because not a lot of people have been reporting on how surprisingly harsh Microsoft has been with regards to their statements here, which I am in favor of, it's worth noting. But that's opinion. The in favor of is the opinion. Now, blah, 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 blah. A couple other comments here. They mention how mobile gaming is huge, because it is, and blah, 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 blah. There's a couple of statements I do want to pull out here really quick. Well, I'll talk about Bobby Kotick in a minute, because I have never been more convinced that that man is legitimately evil than after this week of doing all this research. Moving on. Through great teams and great technology, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard will empower players to enjoy the most immersive franchises like Halo and Warcraft virtually anywhere they want. They say this immediately after talking about mobile gaming. Make of that what you will. However, then they talk about the metaverse, and they talk about Candy Crush, they talk about metaverse again. Now, this is something I've actually been specifically asked to comment on. That's a good question, Mike Tomato. Maybe it's because they just hate their name that much. They're like, no, I must be evil and all-powerful. So they keep talking about the metaverse. Why do they keep talking about the metaverse? So, believe it or not, it's not necessarily as bad as it sounds. Really. I mean that sincerely. Here's the thing. Some of you may or may not be aware of this fact. There's this thing where investors, and I don't mean people, I mean, holding companies and investor consultants, and the people that we mean when we say investors, look for. Investors are, how do I say this as nicely as humanly possible? Morons. And what they do is they look for buzzwords, okay? I'm not actually joking. There is so much evidence for this. If you want to go back to, say, the 80s and 70s and 60s and 20s, this is what they do. They look for buzzwords. They peruse official documents, and they look for words that they approve of. And they say, oh, okay, you're pushing for X, Y, and Z. Good. and they will then recommend that particular investment, or they'll be in favor of it, or they'll vote in approval of the board, or whatever. This is really, really common, whether it's regarding the internet. You remember when the internet was a buzzword in investor meetings? So regarding innovative, regarding inclusiveness is a recent one. You know, so many buzzwords follow in this exact same format, template of this is what we're looking for, right? Yeah, the cloud. You remember that when everyone was talking about the cloud? You ever wonder why everyone was talking about the cloud? You ever wonder why everyone's talking about the metaverse and the NFTs this year? The reason why is because the investors want to hear those words. The reason I bring that up is because that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do them, because historically speaking, 98, I'd say, % of companies don't. I actually have a point, in fact. So you remember how I went off on a rant about the Square Enix president and how much I hated his big statement about how NFTs are the future and evil, evil, evil. You remember that? You remember that? And I got actually angry about that. So a little bit of information came across my desk afterwards. Thank you, Spy Network, for continuing to be the Spy Network. And one of the things I found was that that's not the first time they've said that. In fact, it's not the first time they've gone through that. The current president and the previous president both have been doing this is the thing we're focusing on, this buzzword, and it's changed a couple times. But if you go back 20 years, every single one of these big announcements, the current president of Square Enix has done the exact same thing and said, we're totally focusing on this thing because it's totally the future, and they've not done any of it. Not a single one of the buzzwords they have talked about in the last 2 decades has been something they've actually put any effort or work into, because that's what companies do. They mention these kind of things because because morons. Investors. Okay, just wanted to get that out of the way because it's relevant here, because I know some people, including me, have been rather worried about how much people have been pushing the metaverse and the NFTs as of late. Now, it's not saying they won't go into it, because we've already talked about artificially creating markets and evil, but yeah, no, this is key jangling. Yes, Pastor of Muppets, but I'm going to need you to assassinate, let's see, Mr. Red, unless he tells me what he wants to put his donations towards. All right, so, getting back to my notes. Let's talk about financial realities. Okay, so we've talked about all that. So the actual transactions, let's talk about the offer, because this is an offer. It is $95 per share, all cash transaction at market value. Now let's talk about what that means. It's a bit of legalese term, a bit of economic terms. So first of all, $95 per share is exactly what it sounds like. They're offering to buy it for that much. That's where they get the 68 point whatever billion dollar number. All cash transaction. Now, I know I talked about this over the week, but so usually when large-scale companies do large-scale purchases, they don't actually do purchases in terms of fungible currency. What they usually do is they say, well, listen. Oh, I didn't even see it, Mr. Red. What's your backup for the Donkey Kong country? Oh, to the moon. Okay, so got it. Okay, hang on. I didn't even realize that was you putting it towards something. So, Donkey Kong Country Show, question mark. To the moon. Yeah, I know, right? $1 billion? Hell, I'd be set. Me and my family and my family's family would be set for life. Anyways, yeah, no, what usually happens these kind of things is they either trade assets, or maybe they actually trade stock. Is extremely a common thing. So, for example, I want to purchase Mr. Red Core, so rather than giving Mr. Red Core's owners any money, I just give them stock in my company. So technically I have bought it from you, but really all I've done is given you something that is equivalent of certain value, blah, blah, blah. That's normal. Now, an all-cash transactions is pretty similar to what it sounds like. It means every asset that's going through is an actual cash asset. Now, there's a lot of types of things that can be cash assets, including just straight-up cash. But the bottom line is that assets and funds are going to be transacted for this. And let's go ahead and get this out of the way. An all-cash transaction is unusual for a company of the millions size, never mind of the tens of billions. This is extraordinarily unusual, except it makes perfect sense in this sake for reasons I'll get to in just a minute. That's the first thing. The last thing is the market value thing. So the reason they're offering, this is an extraordinarily precisely calculated number. $95, I'll get to that. Give me a second, Easel Games. $95 per share is a very, very calculated number. It is, if you look at the stock price of Actiblizzard over the past year, that looks like a high number. but that's because you're looking at it in the wrong way. If you look at Actiblizzard over the cross 20 years or so, $95 is arguably undervaluing the company for what it is actually worth. Instead, what they're doing is they're giving more money for what it is currently worth in the hopes that it'll be worth more later. And basically, Microsoft is offering to buy for less than it is probably literally technically worth, but offering more than what people could get if they just decided to go and sell their shares right now. It is a very precisely calculated value, and they've done my hat's off to whoever came up with that number. Now, this is a super aggressive offer. Now, we've actually talked about this over the week. There is a fairly strong amount of effort. Microsoft is absolutely going hard on this one. This is not Microsoft making an idle offer. This is Microsoft saying, this is ours. If you want to buy it out, then piss off. Blah, blah, blah. Like, this is strong negotiation in financial and economic terms. And I'm not saying that jokingly or memeingly. So this is part of the financial thing I just mentioned with regards to the 95. So this goes to easel things. Does an all-cash transaction make it easier or harder to go through? So it will make it take longer in terms of the transaction itself. Remember, even the earliest possible estimate for this going through, and in my opinion, this is wildly optimistic, is June to July of next year. I really believe that's too optimistic of a assumption, but I'll get to that in a minute. But it does make it take longer, but it is arguably easier in the sense that the people are substantially more likely to actually take the deal. Because an all-cash offer is exactly what it sounds like. Let me phrase this differently. Let's say I walk up to Javan. I say, hey, Javan, you've got a nice Apple stand there. Tell you what. In a couple weeks, I'm going to go ahead and be making some bananas. My banana harvest is going to come in. And I will give you a percentage of that banana harvest in exchange for your Apple stand. Or I could go up to Javan and say, hey, here's X dollars. Give me that banana, give me your Apple stand. Now, statistically speaking, most people are simply going to be more likely to take the straight up cash because it's cash. That's the point of an all cash offer. It is more likely to be accepted because there's less that can go wrong with it. Yeah, Javan's already confirming this in chat for me right now. You can have a potentially good thing, or you can have something that is guaranteed. This is old economics. This is very simple. So, that's the primary reason for doing an all-cash offer. Again, this is them going hard. And yeah, we talked about fungibility recently. We talked about that when we were discussing what a non-fungible token means and what NFTs actually were. This is straight up fungible. Bam, here you go. Yeah, cash or gift card. Yeah, this is so simple of economics. So that's one of the ways in which they're going hard. They've also done a lot of interesting things. So let's talk about this. Phil Spencer is CEO of Microsoft Gaming. And you're thinking, well, of course he is. No. Let me explain that a little bit better. As of last week, Phil Spencer has been made CEO of Microsoft Gaming. That's done. That's actually happened. That has gone through and is now official as of last week. It's one of the few things that's actually gone through. He is currently in charge of a new subdivision which is being put in charge of this kind of a thing. That is now past tense as opposed to something that is future happening. And the idea is that all future acquisitions in the gaming space will be put under Microsoft Gaming, which will then be put under Phil Spencer. Now, this is, again, a bit of a hard, move. This is, so this sounds stupid, but the logic here is if you actually bother to buy the land to build a house, you're saying to people that I'm going to build the house, even if you haven't actually bought the materials to buy the house yet. I know that's a weird analogy, but you see the logic there? There are lots of things that Microsoft is doing. I'm not actually going to go down the whole list, but there are lots of things that Microsoft is doing to say, no, this is happening. This is going through. We're going with this offer. We've accepted this crap with Bobby Kotick. I'll talk about that in a second. We're making this happen. This is a power move in every sense of the word, and they have done their due diligence. I'm actually impressed, economically speaking, at how much weight Microsoft is throwing behind this acquisition. And yeah, the timing is absolutely perfect. I agree. That's why I've been so worried about this for months, because I was afraid Tencent would do this. They still can, by the way. We haven't gotten to that yet. So yeah, they're really going hard on this. All right, so I've teased it a few times. Oh, hang on. Phil Spencer actually got a document too. Sorry, one more thing. This is also related to how Phil Spencer has flat out stated we're not putting up with Actiblizzard's crap, and I quote, "We look forward to extending our journey to create a more diverse and inclusive culture to our new colleagues at Actiblizzard and ensuring all our..." They don't actually, they say Activision Blizzard, so I mentally truncated that. "And ensuring all our employees can do what they love while thriving in a safe and welcoming environment, one where everyone feels empowered to do their best work." That's a whole lot of blah, 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 but let's summarize that, because once again, that is the third time that they have done an official economic document and flat out said, you are not a diverse and inclusive culture. You are not doing well enough. Shots fired, slap to the face. That's 3 separate public announcements flat out calling out Actiblizzard for the recent nonsense. Again, extremely strongly worded for business documents. Now, let's talk about Bobby Kotick. Bobby the Devil. That's also true, Darth Tyrant. I absolutely agree with that, Hazardous. 100% I agree with that. We will talk about how this can still go south, though, in a minute. Let's talk about Bobby Kotick first, though. Kotick? I don't know what his freaking name is. So, Bobby Kotick, whatever his damn name is what we call a strong CEO. Now, we've talked about this briefly in the past. CEOs, so we've talked before about the concept. Let's actually rewind here a second. Some of you may or may not be aware of the concept of the money people. Let me actually define that, because that's actually important to what I'm about to talk about. The money people are the people who make decisions, financially speaking, and therefore are the ones who actually decide what happens in a company. I usually refer to this from like a perspective of a gaming company. You know, the creators, the director of the game, the people who actually write the stories or actually program the code. They don't actually decide what happens, right? They don't actually decide what games get made or how, or what budget they get, or what staff they get, or what support they get. They're the ones who make do with what decisions have been made by the money people. Now, the reason I use such a generic term, for those of you who've never heard me describe this, is because who the money people are actually vary based on the individual company. And this is true in every space, not just gaming, not even just entertainment. Who the money people are varies. So you may or may not have... Mr. Red, do me a favor, say something when you're out. You may or may not have it be the CFO. That's actually semi-common. Sometimes it's the CEO. Often it's the board. Sometimes there's a specific majority shareholder. For the Pixar block that's about to be starting, I think in like a couple weeks here, you'll hear me talking about Steve Jobs a lot. He was a money person for Pixar for a huge portion of its history because he was one of the biggest owners of Pixar as a company. So who it is varies. That's the whole point of such a generic term. But the money people make the decisions. Bobby Kotick is the money person at Actiblizzard, okay? That's why I bothered with that whole definition, so you would understand that. Let's do leveling next. So, that sucks. But let's explain a little bit of what that really means. Now, Bobby Kotick is the CEO, the strong CEO of Actiblizzard. Now, if you don't understand what that means... Oh, damn it. This isn't too bad. There are, by and large, 3 types of CEOs in the universe, in video games. Or not video games. Why did I say video games? In companies. Sorry, getting a little distracted because I'm trying to remember which dungeon this is. I was hoping for a lower level dungeon, but whatever. That tank is super dead. Oh god, I hit the wrong button, but we're committed now. So, some CEOs are figureheads. Now, this is actually something that happens more commonly. Statistically speaking, most CEOs are people who don't actually really do anything. They don't actually run anything. They don't actually decide anything. They're stampers or public relate. They're basically another aspect of PR, right? And I looked up the exact number. As of this year, I actually double-checked this. As of this year, can anyone guess what the average turnover rate is for CEOs in the world? And by the way, this number has gone down since the last time I checked it. I'll go ahead and give that away. That's why I double-checked just this morning to figure out the number. Yeah, in the world. This is a worldwide thing. 2 years, 4 years. That's actually a little bit high. I thought it was actually lower than. It is, in fact, 6.9 years worldwide. Here in the States, it's actually 1.5 years. So, make of that what you will. But the reason I bring that up The reason I bring that up is that that number says everything you need to know about what CEOs usually are. They're there to fill a slot. They're there to fill something, right? Yes, yeah, get it out of your system, hazardous. And that's your normal, typical CEO, which doesn't really have much to do with anything, and as was mentioned in chat just a moment ago, are mostly there to be the face, to attend meetings, and to be the fall person when things go wrong. Now, I'm going to admit that I have no hard evidence of this, but I have long since theorized that one of the biggest reasons that the CEO position exists in so many companies, despite being so utterly irrelevant to the operation of the company, like there are many companies where if the CEO stopped existing, the company wouldn't even notice. That's not that's not presumption, that's truth. But the reason I theorize that why that is true is because that's where the cushy people put other people in cushy jobs so that other people can go into cushy jobs so that other people can go into cushy jobs. The good old boys concept, if you will. Now, that is presumption. I don't actually know if that's true. But I do know that I just got eaten by a flower, and that's just not cool. Nevertheless, that is normal. That is the normal operation of a CEO. There are also CEOs who are kind of only there because they're legally required to be there. Now, so that's normal CEO. There's also a weak CEO. A weak CEO doesn't even give their own announcements, doesn't even do their own board meetings, doesn't even take the blame when necessary. They're just kind of there because the company is legally required to have a CEO. They don't even make that much money. Right? Yeah, exactly, Kira White Noise. Again, that is presumption, though. That's not fact. But then you have strong CEOs. Now, strong CEOs are exactly what it sounds like. Whatever you're picturing in your head is probably what you're picturing right now, unless it's Senator Armstrong, although that would be kind of awesome in its own way. A strong CEO is someone who absolutely holds the reins of the company, is the money person, is in charge of the company, runs the board, rather than being an employee of the board. Bobby Kotick runs the board at Actiblizzard. Now, you remember what I mentioned earlier, 6.9 years worldwide, and closer to 1.5 years in the North America? Bobby Kotick, I'm not even going to make you guess this, Bobby Kotick became the CEO in 1991. Please think about that for a minute. Bobby Kotick runs that company. Has for probably longer than some of my viewers have been alive. Like anybody younger than that? You don't have to say, you don't have to say, but you can just think in your head, oh my god, you know. I was born after 1991. That is a long freaking time. He has roots. I am 39. Well, I'm about to be 40, but whatever. He has been in charge of that company for freaking ever. He has so much investment. He has so much roots. The board does whatever the hell he tells them to, and the company does whatever the hell he says it does. He is in charge of that company. Now, why is that relevant? First of all, I didn't actually realize just how strong of a CEO he was until this week when I was going through all this research, so that's part of that. But here's the thing. One of the things the press documents goes out of its way to mention, the press document, let me reemphasize that moment for a moment, is that Bobby Kotick will remain CEO. Why does the press document make that point? Now, if you don't understand the reason that's significant, press documents don't have to include that kind of information. It's 100% unnecessary and 100% irrelevant and actually has nothing to do with anything. So why even include it? The only reason to include that is because he demanded it be in there. He required that to be in the document. A picture of Bobby Kotick's personality has definitely started to form in my head as I've been doing research on this over the last week. And it paints a really horrible picture. Yeah, this is someone who does not want to let go of what he has. Which brings me to probably the biggest bombshell and the thing that I've seen almost nobody talk about, almost nobody share. Yeah, no, huge ego on this guy. And that is the fact that by far and large, and this is not speculation, the single biggest opponent, that's the wrong word, the single biggest obstacle to this merger going through has been, for the better part of the last year, Bobby Kotick. He is the individual cause for why Microsoft hadn't already bought them last year, which obviously for those of you who have a brain, you know that these kind of financial transactions take absolutely forever to go through. This wasn't something that was handshaked over a deal over the course of a week. This is something that's been in talks, by all accounts, since, I think it's like last June, something like that. I forget the exact date, please forgive me. It was the beginning of last summer, I know that, so it's like June-ish. And Kotick himself has been the biggest opponent to this. Now, make of that what you will. Whether that's a good or a bad thing or in-between thing, I have no idea. But it is a true thing, regardless of whether it's a good or a bad thing. Now, did I not? Oh, no, I did. Okay, pretty cool. Sorry, I can't remember the mechanics of this boss. He's a weird one. Right. This is group, I think. Yep, red is group. I was remembering. So yeah, obviously, let's go ahead and talk about some facts. Let's ignore the specifics of this case for just a minute. This case, listen to me. I think a little bit too much like a lawyer. I try not to, I really do, because, you know, that's horrible, but... The thing here is... Bobby Kotick has a very valid and tangible reason to be, I don't want to say afraid, but obviously be worried about his current position. As much as he is a strong CEO, as much as he has retained a stupid amount of control over his board, despite everything that's been going, despite evidence which has come to light regarding him, which may or may not be true or may or may not be factual, the fact of the matter is that there is a lot of threat to his position, and he has been going hard on that. So, if he is going to be allowing this deal to go through, he's going to get some frickin' kickbacks. Some of you have probably already seen some of the financial compensation that Bobby Kotick is going to be getting as a, let's call it what it is, bribe for him allowing this deal to go through. The $280 million up front is just the first of compensations that he has been getting. Just keep that in mind. That's an initial bribe. So why would Bobby sell? Well, that's a good question. I don't know the mind of Bobby Kotick, but it is worth noting that even though he has a substantial amount of control over his board, most of that control comes down to financial chicanery and connections and investments and roots. That is all, some of you have probably heard me use this term, that is all political power. Political power always bends to real power, personal power. And one of the aspects that real power can manifest itself in real life is what is a revolution. Now, obviously, in modern terms, in economic terms, a revolution is not a bunch of people grabbing pitchforks and storming the gates. But there is absolutely the possibility of a large group of people being sufficiently upset at their current autarch and saying no, and doing something about that, and we've actually already seen the beginnings of that. It is very likely that Kotick, who is, for all his many flaws, not an idiot, has already seen the beginnings of the people at the gates, and is like, okay. And what he's doing is, let's be 100% honest with ourselves, extremely smart. He is going to get a gargantuan paycheck and no consequences for anything. As a result of this deal, he is going to get his nice big cushy job for at least another year, bare minimum. That's in paper. It is likely he will keep his job for a period of time even after that. He might literally end up just reporting to Phil Spencer, depending on how that lines up. That's still something that's in the air, so we don't actually know. It is entirely possible that even if he does end up getting fired, oh no, at the end of at the end of quarter 2 2023, which is the projected date for this to finish going through, then he will get the aforementioned gargantuan paycheck, which I don't even know the full extent of because nobody does. Those documents do not need to be publicly available. He is making bank on this deal. And no, I do not mean that, Pastor of Puppets, but I don't want to get into that concept. That's the whole other thing. So that's probably why he's going through this. You've heard of the term golden parachute? This is a golden jetliner. Yes, a liner that is also a jet. It's like an airship kind of a looking thing. So, moving on. That is, hang on, looking at the metaverse thing. I already talked about that. I already talked about Phil Spencer. I already talked about the game, blah, 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 blah. Let's talk about the other thing, the thing that everyone's brought up. This is the thing that, yeah, golden sapling, I like that. let's talk about the thing that everyone's brought up. Antitrust. Okay, so let me start with my opinion. Let me start with something that is my prediction, and this is the summary of the antitrust thing. I don't think the United States is going to pull any antitrust concerns in this affair. I'm starting with that, okay? That's the opinion, and that's based on all the research and speculation I've been going through over the last week or so. Now, there is a very big caveat to that, which needs to be mentioned, and that caveat is that they have to deal with the EU. Now, I've actually gotten this question like 5 times this week as we've been talking about it on stream, so let me go and address this first. Why would an American-owned company need to deal with the EU? Well, obviously there's the fact that they recently moved their headquarters. That's obviously part of that. But even regardless of that factoid, the fact is, if you do business in the EU, you follow EU rules. That's how that works. And the EU is notoriously not only litigious, but also substantially more antitrust than the United States is. By the way, the United States is actually pretty antitrust. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. The FT... I don't remember that one. The FTC... Oh, okay, that's Meteors. Right, that's Meteors. The FTC, right? Is vaguely antitrust, but the Federal Justice Department, which is the organization that actually handles these kind of things, is quite antitrust. So, yeah, no. There's... Okay, so let's... No, move away from me. Move away from me. So they have to get over the antitrust hurdle in the United States, which I think they will. And they have to get over the antitrust hurdle in the EU. I have absolutely no idea. I have zero idea if they're going to be doing anything with the EU one way or the other. I don't know EU laws that well. I don't even know anybody who knows EU laws that well, so I can reference. So I have no idea what that's going to do. Yeah, the EU is who knows. That is the wild card right now. Now, yeah, no, that's kind of exactly it. So let me talk about the specifics of that. Hang on, let me shrink my notes so I can read them a little bit. But here, scroll down. Push this over here so I can see this while dodging this meteor that's being thrown at my face. The way this works, for those who are not aware, here in the States, the FTC and the Justice Department separately, by the way, both look into any financial transaction that is over $92 million in thing. Now, let me stress the way I say that. Any transaction, not just corporate mergers, not just, business dealings, not just acquisitions, but if I decide to say, hey, hazardous, here's $92,001,001, then they will look into that transaction because that's how that works. Thank you very much, Little Billy. As always, I'll put that towards the Endwalker patches. And let's see. What did we just do? Let's do Alliance. Hang on, I gotta change my outfit for that. Boop. There we go. More than a few easel games. It is worth noting that that 92 million thing is an automatic thing. It does not mean they do not investigate deals below... No, I haven't watched any of New Trek at all. Classic. I haven't had any time whatsoever to do any of that. Anyways. So they automatically cover anything over 92 million. They still retain the right to look at any transaction, period, for reasons that should probably be self-apparent. Now, there's something very interesting in legalese about how they do this. So they give you a period of time. This is part of the year time gap. We know that's being baked into this. And after that period of time, during that period of time, they can say, well, hold up. And they could do one of two things. They can flat out say, nope, at which point there will be a legal battle. Or they could say, hold up, we're not sure about this. We need more information. And that leads to years of documentation, not exaggerating. So those are the two things that they tend to do. And you're like, well, hang on, what happens if they approve of it? This is the interesting thing. They will never approve of any transaction. Now you're probably thinking, why? Because if you approve of a transaction legally, you are saying that that transaction is good, effectively making that case law, effectively locking you into saying it's cool, which means you can't change your mind later. What instead the Federal Department of Justice actually does in this matter is they allow a transaction to go forward without intervening. The legal distinction being that allowing it to happen means it's okay for now, but there's no precedent set. We have actually seen this very recently. Some of you may or may not have seen that currently the Department of Justice here is actually going after Facebook, and I wrote this down, for their acquisitions of Instagram and WhatsApp, because they allowed that back in the day, but they never approved of that, and they have since decided that that approval is something that is unacceptable, and therefore they are deciding that transaction needs to be discontinued. It needs to be ejected. So that's why that particular thing exists. That's how that works. So those are the possibilities. That is how they approach this. That is what Microsoft and Actiblizzard are currently facing with regards to the next steps. So let me walk this back a second. So the boards of both companies have approved. Bobby Kotick has approved, and now they're seeking investor approval while they have already filed to the FTC and to the Department of Justice as to whether or not they will, allow this to happen. That's effectively step 3. You say that hazardous, but it's happened before. How many of you are aware of what I call the CNN issue? Now, I don't even remember the whole steps of that, so please don't remember. I actually had to write it down for when I was talking about Star Trek, the original series, because that obviously was relevant to TOS. But for those of you not aware, CNN used to be another company, which used to be another company, but then they got broken up, but then they remerged because they were re-allowed to. So not only can they change their minds on whether a transaction is okay, they can change their minds on whether a transaction was not okay, like happened with CNN. Currently, the CNN, Paramount, whatever the hell it's called these days, thing is back under being one label, whereas before they were split up. Sense, Mike? Anyways, this is also why Star Trek rights were split all over the place. And yeah, forcible splits happen all the time. It's actually a fairly common thing. And yeah, AT&T is also related to this overall topic. So, that is the biggest hurdle that they're facing, right? No, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Now, antitrust itself is actually a pretty vague and gray field on purpose. For good and for bad, I actually do find myself agreeing with that because I think that actual individual people need to make a decision as to whether something is antitrust or not, rather than having a line in a document that can be legalese around. My opinion. Nevertheless, antitrust, so Microsoft, going back to that going hard thing I've already mentioned, Microsoft has, yeah, exactly, Jonathan. Microsoft has already gone hard in trying to get approval. They've actually already made their case, in fact, about why they think this is not an antitrust thing here in the States. It's funny because the simplicity of their argument amuses me. Their argument is very, very simple. Even if this goes through in full, Microsoft will still not be the largest company within this particular competitive space, as in the video gaming industry in general. Ergo, they think that if you're not going to go after the other companies who are bigger than us, that would be Sony and Tencent, by the way, then you have no real right to go after us for this transaction. It is an amusing argument to me. And it is a solid argument. There is a potential downside with that argument, which we're not going to go into here. Whoops, I screwed that up. Yeah, that's whatever. Finish the combo. Anyways, all right, so that's... there's another thing that's related to this, and this is actually the reason I'm putting this here is because this is... Obviously, there's a PR stint here, but the main reason that this was part of a public announcement is because of the fact that they're trying to show how they are not being anti-competitive, and being anti-competitive is one of the biggest things the United States looks for when it comes to antitrust laws. So, what's going on with Call of Duty? Specifically Call of Duty. I mention that because that's the only thing they mention. The only specific IP that they have said flat out is going to... Oh, shoot. Is going to continue to be on PlayStation. Yeah, that hurt. Yeah, I'm dead. Is Call of Duty. They don't mention anything else about any other business deals, although we'll talk about contracts in just a minute. But part of the reason, in my opinion... so hang on. Let's talk about fact and let's talk about reality. Fact is they have stated that they're going to continue to have Call of Duty on the PlayStation. That's fact. They may or may not adhere to that, but they have a lot of reason to adhere to that. There's a lot of legal reasons, there's a lot of economic reasons, there's a lot of just general PR reasons why they would want to keep doing that. I'm willing to say they're probably keeping it on Call of Duty on PlayStation. It would be a huge hassle to pull off of it. It would cause them legalese problems. It would also cause them antitrust problems. And finally, and probably most importantly, it would cause them a huge loss of revenue, which would also kind of piss off, thank you. It would also probably piss off not just PlayStation players, but Sony in general, because Sony is bigger than them, as we've already established, and they want to stay in good with that particular market base. I don't have a res at this level, do I? Why do I not get res until 64? Whatever. Sure, I'll accept that. Sorry. This fight, I swear to God, it always goes south. Nobody knows how to do this fight. Anyways. But, looking at my notes here, it's also worth noting that Sony has a say in this, too. Sony could decide to play ball on this and just kind of keep being okay with stuff being on the PlayStation. And they could decide to try and leverage their market share, which is not substantial. It's not a small revenue share of how many people play COD on PlayStation. And they might want to try and take more of a bite out of Microsoft as a result of that. But that's the kind of thing that will happen later. That's years out at this point. Yes, but I have a res. I have a res. I just don't have it yet because screw me, apparently. When do summoners get res? That's probably a better question to ask there. Okay. They have also mentioned, this is partially related to the aforementioned question, that they are going to honor all previously written contracts that were written with Actiblizzard. Oh god, the tank's dead. The tank's dead. With all companies made prior to this acquisition, I'm dead. I can't get over there in time. Ugh, okay. That's territory. Even though they could probably cancel contracts and get away with it because that's just going to be a legal hassle, or excuse me, a financial fee kind of a situation. Let's be honest, once again, there is no reason for Microsoft to decide to cancel most of their contracts with regards to any deals that they made prior to this, because there's just no benefit for them relative to the thing. Remember, all economic transactions boil down to cost-benefit ratio, and the effort and hassle and legalese and garbage and all that crap that they would have to go through simply to decide not to validate and go forward with any previous deals is just not worth the time and hassle that they're going to cost. Sense, mate? Hang on a second. I see people saying stuff in chat, and I'm actually a little distracted because this fight is just going south in a hurry. Jesus Christ, people. Look at all the dead people. You can't see it. It's a tiny thumbnail. Trust me, there's a lot of dead people on my screen right now. All right, let's see what chat's saying. Let's catch up before we go to my next step, because I'm not even done. We're going to talk about the merger thing still. We also need to talk about the nature of how this is going to go through, and finally, we're going to talk about how this can fail. That's going to be my final talking point. So, 100% agree hazardous. Again, it's part of that whole PR stint that they've been going for, let's be honest, quite some time at this point. There we go. We haven't even wiped yet. This is weird. Why haven't we wiped yet? Any other comments here? Expanded Game Pass. Oh yeah, by the way, the Game Pass. Let me go ahead and predict. I meant to mention this earlier. Let me predict with 100% certainty. Yes, really, that WoW will come out on the Game Pass and on the Xbox. The Game Pass. So we talked about this over the week. The Game Pass makes Microsoft a stupid amount of money. They are making so much money off the Game Pass. It's actually a little bit silly to consider it. They absolutely want to continue getting more people not only on the Game Pass, but to stay on the Game Pass, but they want more people to join the Game Pass. They are making bank on the Game Pass. WoW currently is playable with a controller. And as a direct consequence, I should also mention the game I'm playing right now is fully playable on the PlayStation 4. So yeah, they will. I guarantee with 100% certainty WoW is going to come out on the Xbox and will probably be a part of the Game Pass. The Game Pass will also then probably become part of the WoW sub. So you say, will WoW become free to play? No, that's stupid. I'm sorry, not that you're stupid. I mean, it would be stupid of them to go that route with it. There is a strong financial record of virtually any sub MMO that goes to free to play MMO that they fall apart almost immediately after that. There are very few exceptions to that model, and those are absolutely the exceptions, not the rule. Furthermore, people are still paying subs, so there's no reason for them to try and do that in order to try and gain a market that doesn't exist. And they don't even have to do that because they could just use the Game Pass itself as the sub. You could say, well, you subscribe to the Game Pass, that is your sub to WoW. And yeah, there's a crossplay and everything, because we can play with PlayStation 4 players in FF14. Yeah, STO, it got damned lucky. I was going to mention STO, but let's be clear, STO got lucky in managing to survive in becoming a free-to-play MMO. And most of the other ones that actually managed to survive are ones that, you know, have another format or economic model or sufficient investure to manage to do so. See EVE Online for another example of something like that. But anyways. Is that everything? That's everything. I agree with that, Darth Tyrant. I personally don't have any real investment of the Game Pass, even if I had an Xbox. That's just not something that has any interest to me. But it's easy to understand why it would work. It's the exact same reason that gaming rental companies used to be so big for so long. It's because that's... I'm not going to make it. Yeah. Nope, didn't make it. God damn it. Yeah, it's a good concept. It's a concept that makes a lot of sense, because the long and the short of it is it's for there for people who don't have a lot of time to spend on games, don't have a lot of money to spend on games, and just want to Netflix games. Right? You remember how Netflix used to work? I guess it kind of still works this way, but you just, here, we'll mail you some DVDs, and you mail them back, and that's how it works. You can only have so many DVDs out at a time, but you can return them, and it's a rental. It's a frickin' rental system. It actually works quite well. It is a system I am overall in favor of, despite the fact that it can be overused. It also is worth noting that the Game Pass, and I'll give you credit on this one, Microsoft, they've actually been bothering to make it worth a damn. Like, there's actually a lot of games and game variety on the Game Pass, and that's probably part of why it's been doing so well, is because it's actually worth a damn, in addition to just being a rental service. So yeah, no, sorry. All of this is just my evidence, my showing my work in my math of saying, yeah, no, WoW's coming out on the Game Pass, guaranteed. Guaran-frickin-teed. I'll stay here. Okay, next note. Let's talk about... We talked about contracts. Let's talk about reverse triangular mergers. How many of you know what a reverse triangular merger is? I'm actually kind of idly curious. Anybody? Hazardous might know what this is. I know he's bank person, but... Such a dumb thing. Oh, shoot. I actually got doomed. Boop. Get rid of that. Wish I could res people. I feel like I already said that. Reverse triangle merger. Although, maybe it is a moida. A murder most foul, you might say. So the way this works is when a company buys another company, there's actually 3 different ways they can do that. Like actual applications, tactical, or tangible, God, what's the word I'm looking for? Practical ways. No, that's still not the right word. There's ways they can do that, right? Implementations. One of those ways is they can do a reverse triangle. I can't do it like he did. That was such a great sequence of a Hat in Time. Anyways, the reason, whoops, wrong way. The reason several companies do it this way is specifically because it is by far one of the easiest and smoothest ways to do it in terms of paperwork. There's actually no real, like, I know this sounds like someone's trying to legalese their way around stuff, but really, this just limits the paperwork. A reverse triangle merger is you've got a company up here, and you've got a company over here that you want to buy. So what you do is you create a new subsidiary down here, out of thin air. Blah, blah, and then you merge these 2 companies together, and then they are now under the over company. There you go. So legally speaking, you are doing a merger. Because, and this Microsoft is doing this, they have created a new subsidiary, and that subsidiary is going to merge with Actiblizzard, and then you now own the subsidiary that merged with the Actiblizzard. So you can see how it legally is a merger, but in every way that matters, it is actually an acquisition. And yeah, it's substantially less paperwork than doing it the other way. That's why they do it this way. And the only reason I'm even bringing this up, other than to give people an insight into how these kind of financials work, is because I've seen a lot of news sites reporting that this is a merger between Actiblizzard and Microsoft, which is not really accurate. In other words, said with the stint of, oh my god, they're going to become one company. No, Microsoft is procuring Actiblizzard. They're just doing it this manner. Yeah, it's technically true, exactly. So, that's the thing I wanted to comment on there, blah, 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 blah. As I mentioned, I've actually read through all of the... No, I'm not going to peek it. All of the documents and all 92 freaking pages. It's been a lot of my off time this week has been reading that stupid document. A couple of things jumped out at me. One of the things that's mentioned in the document is that the document legally binds the board of Actiblizzard, let me specifically mention that, it is just the board of Actiblizzard, to not shop around. Now, to explain that a little bit, what this means is the board of Actiblizzard is not allowed to try and garner a better offer from someone else. They're not allowed to do that. Now you're thinking, oh, okay, that makes sense. That seals the deal in, right? No, because that has absolutely no weight on anyone else. In fact, as a part of the exact same proviso, if an offer is made to the board, they are legally required to consider the offer, to consider the offer and honor an offer if they find it to be superior to the offer made by Microsoft. So a bidding war is not just on the table, it's something that I would consider to be likely. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go with someone else. Remember, Microsoft has been going very hard with this acquisition, and they are offering something that's better than just straight up money. So what could happen is Tencent could, for just this is a completely made up example, but Tencent could say, we'll offer you $97 to the share, but we'll do it in a share transaction. Or we'll offer you $113 a share, which is what several financial analysts say that this Actiblizzard is actually valued at, regardless of the illusion of the stock market. And then not do that in a cash offer or not do that in a specific way that would then be beneficial to Bobby Kotick. And as a direct consequence, they could then say no, but they do have to look at it. They are legally required to look at it. So, bottom line with regards to that is I would say a bidding war is near certainty. I would be astonished if other companies do not actually make some kind of offer here. Whether it will go through or not is much more debatable because of how much work and effort Microsoft has done into making this such a powerful, such a strong move. It is also possible that the downside of a bidding war could happen. So some of you know this already, and I know this sounds like duh, but just to get this out there for anybody not aware of this, there are two reasons to have bidding. One is to make sure that you have to pay as little as possible for something. The other is to make sure that other people have to pay as much as possible for something. So it is within the realm of possibility, indeed likelihood, that some people will try to do a bidding war specifically to try and make Microsoft counterbid in order to increase the amount of money that Actiblizzard gets. Hang on, it's worse than that. Because not only is that kind of bullcrap in its own right, but what could very well happen because of the nature of how Actiblizzard is specifically is someone could try to offer a better offer to Actiblizzard. The board could consider it, and then Microsoft would then be required to put a larger offer in to Bobby Kotick specifically, the money person of Actiblizzard, in order to make him go with their deal. In fact, I would say that's highly likely to happen. Please keep in mind he's already getting an extraordinarily good deal, but greed. I don't have anything else to add to that, just greed. Looking at my notes here. Oh yeah, hang on. There are a couple of other provisos that are important here. So, let's assume that Tencent does put in a deal, and Actiblizzard does cancel the deal. Actiblizzard as a corporation then has to pay Microsoft $2.27 billion as a cancellation fee. Now, believe it or not, that's actually pretty standard. There's very common standards and practices which go into cancellation fees. And so that is something that absolutely, it is just standard. I know that sounds like a lot of money, and it actually is. Even at this level, yes. Even at this level, $2.27 billion is actually more than a slap on the wrist. That is material, going back to the earlier thing. So keep that in mind. If Actiblizzard pulls the plug, for any reason whatsoever, they owe Microsoft $2.27 billion. Now hang on. That goes the other way too. If Microsoft ends up either canceling the deal or, this is even worse, causes an antitrust thing which causes the deal to not go through. So in other words, if Microsoft cancels it, or if it is canceled by the FTC or by the Federal Department of Justice, Microsoft owes money to Actiblizzard, and the actual exact amount of money that Microsoft owes actually varies depending on the specific circumstances, but it is somewhere between $2 to $3 billion. So, yeah, they are, Java. Like I said, I am actually, the financier in me is legitimately impressed with Microsoft with regards to this. They are really going hard. They are really dedicated towards this. They have done their due diligence. They have done a whole lot of work in a lot of different ways to make this happen. They have even dumped a crap ton of gold-plated pancakes on Bobby Kotick's plate in order to make him go through with this. And reminder, he is pretty much the person who has the right and authority to make this decision. Now, you'll notice there's one thing in all this discussion I have not actually talked about yet, and that is whether or not this is a good thing. Because that's pure opinion. The answer is, of course, who frickin' knows? Who knows whether or not this is going to be a good thing or a bad thing? We don't know. You don't know, and I don't know. None of us do. This deal won't even go through at absolute earliest, and I remind you, I think this is overly optimistic, until June-ish of next year. That is over a year out. And because of the nature of game development, any games we see, the stuff that we probably care about most, will not be affected by that for probably a year and a half to 2 years after that. So we'll see if this is a good thing from our perspective in 2025, assuming it goes through. But hang on. I do have one other thing to add to that. Actually, I have two other things to add to this. First of all, this is pure opinion. But there is one other thing I care about other than the quality of the games. And that's the people working there. Anybody who knows me knows I care about workers. I've spent too much of my life as someone who's worked as a janitor and a fast food person and a cashier register to not give a damn about workers. I actually think, this is speculation, I have no proof of this, but I actually think this will be better, that this will lead to a better working environment for the people working at Actiblizzard. God, I hope that's true. But I do actually think that is going to be a thing. I do think their overall livelihood is going to go up under Microsoft. My opinion. I could be wrong about that. I don't have any hard evidence of that. This is definitely a fingers crossed kind of scenario. I've already mentioned how Microsoft has publicly called them out in a very harsh and overall means. I've shared all three of those statements that were made in financial documents, which is just insane. I have mentioned how Microsoft has been trying very hard to be seen as the good guys for a long period of time. I've mentioned how Microsoft has been doing a lot of cleaning house over the last 5 to 6 years. Yeah, you get the idea. I do think this is going to improve for the workers. I hope. God, I hope. I've got one last thing to talk about, then we're going to enter the realm of pure speculation, because, stuff that we can't know anything about. The last thing I want to talk about is just this morning. This very morning, I actually did one last research check. Why would they be, Pika? About whether or not certain things are going through or how things are happening and blah, 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 blah. And one of the last things I found was that there are already lawyers who have decided that this smells like money. That makes sense. The lawyers who have drafted that 92-page document are probably not going to have to work for the rest of their life for the amount of money they're making on this deal. That's not an exaggeration or a joke. All the lawyers involved in this deal are going to make a stupid amount of money. The reason I bring that up is, like it or not, there's lawyers and then there's lawyers. And there have already been multiple plaintiffs. In fact, near as I can tell, there's in the hundreds of separate lawyers who are desperately, nay, just pathetically trying to garner support and attention for class action lawsuits, plural, against Microsoft and against Actiblizzard in order to make money. And I'm just going to say that as simply and bluntly as I possibly can. That is, it's literally just them saying, "Arr, you haven't done your due diligence and gotten the best deal possible, and you have not done what your stockholders." Please hire me on. Please hire me on and support me to this. And so there are literally hundreds of these things which are currently in efforts to try and go forward. Now, I say the way that's specific, in effort to try and go forward. None of these class action lawsuits have even begun filing yet. They still need to get people to approve of them. Why did I have aggro there? What the hell was that nonsense? Oh, the tanks are dead. Yeah, it's a gold rush. It's a giant deal. Lawyers are gonna lawyer. There's blood in the water. However all you want to. Why are we dying? Why does he have 16 buffs of haste? Jesus Christ. Yeah, everyone just wants a piece. That's all that is. And I just wanted to mention that because I was curious how long it would take for this to happen. And lo and behold, the answer is about 3 days. You know, I kind of wish that too, Hazardous. One of the things I've discovered in the last probably about 7 years of my life here, did nobody do chains? I admittedly didn't either, but I saw someone doing chains, so I assumed I didn't need it. That's on me, I guess. One of the things I've discovered in the last 7 years is there really is a really big difference between lawyers and lawyers. And a lot of that's coming from personal experience as well, but also just research and insight into legalese and legal matters as I keep discussing and analyzing these kind of financial matters. And it's just funny, the difference between lawyers and lawyers. There's a reason the term ambulance chasers was used as an insult for so long in the legal community. What the hell is that suit? I guess I can look. Elemental armor of maiming, apparently, is what that is. Ah, Eureka. Yeah, no, that's elemental. That makes sense. Anyway, so I do have one last thing to share, and this is just the realm of pure speculation. Yeah, me too, Mr. Red. I freely admit my own ignorance. It's weird how much I've learned over just the last couple of years. Like, I'd like to say I'm a learned person, but no, I'm still learning, you know? I learned a lot going through the TOS ruminations, for example, and that was just about a year and a half ago at this point. Anyways, so the realm of raw speculation. What's going on for WoW? StarCraft. So, hang on, let's actually say this more clearly. StarCraft, Diablo, Overwatch, Warcraft. What's happening in that space? Raw speculation. Let's get reality out of the way. We have no idea. We have no idea where that's going. No concept. They could do all sorts of things in both directions if they wanted to. They could go all over the place with it. Now, having said that, I will actually admit that one of the things, the only piece of evidence I will say here is that Microsoft has been very big on shotgun approach to game design. They've been pushing out a lot of games, and actually, let me walk that back a bit. They've been greenlighting a lot of games. Not all of those games have come to light. Not every game has actually come out. But they have been greenlighting games. Whoops, wrong target. They've been greenlighting games all over the place. And they have also been releasing games all over the place. And as we've already discussed earlier, they are extremely in favor of indies actually putting out games. So, likeliness, I would say it is... Oh, shoot. Why is he aiming at me? I would say likeliness is actually high that we will see the opposite of what Actiblizzard has been doing for the past 10 years. Now, if you don't know what Actiblizzard has been doing for the past 10 years, let me go ahead and mention that one of the things they've been doing is just sitting on IPs and not making games. And yes, I say that angrily because it pisses me off. They've just been sitting on it. They've just been sitting there doing nothing. When was the last StarCraft game that came out? What happened to HOTS? Diablo's going nowhere. Warcraft's just kind of petering out with one game, and even that's had its issues lately. Never mind all the other IPs that they own. And yeah, Activision is just as bad, by the way. I shouldn't just call it Blizzard, it's just, I care about Blizzard. But both sides of Activision have just been rights squatting, which you know how much that pisses me off. So I'm really hopeful, and I feel like there is at least a bit of evidence, Jesus, Zero, I'm sorry. I feel like there's at least a bit of evidence that they might actually decide to start shooting out games. Now, what's probably going to happen is we'll probably get a bunch of crap games as a result of that, because that's what happens when you shotgun games out, right? But at least we'll get games, and some of those games will probably be good. And yeah, I was going to say, Raven and Infinity Ward, both. Yeah, exactly. You get it. There's plenty of directions this could go. We could get a Titanfall 3 instead of this Apex garbage. But that is hope, speculation, and not fact. Yeah, Konami is a perfect example of just sitting on IPs and being like, eh. Oh yeah, it's the Castlevania anniversary. Let's release some NFTs. But yeah, we could actually get a StarCraft shooter. We could get a competent StarCraft shooter. Because I've actually researched StarCraft Ghost, and by all accounts, it was probably going to be a pretty crap game. Which is why they pulled the plug on it. That is the reason they pulled the plug on it. It was not up to code. Right. This is the loneliness one. We'll see. We'll see what happens. When did Disney shot... Oh, you mean... Yeah, never mind, never mind. Yeah, that's valid. Never mind. I see what you're saying. I don't agree. I don't agree that Disney shotgunning Star Wars was bad. But that's because of the exact same reason that I tend to agree with the shotgun method in general. And I do. Because so let's just talk about this real quick. Here's what happens when you shotgun. When you shotgun a particular brand, what you get is about 80% blah. Of that, it's probably closer to like 30% is actual crap. But you get like 50% generic blah, barely even worth talking about. You've probably never even heard of half the Warhammer 40k games that have come out. No, I mean that sincerely. Because they did the shotgun method too. But the reason I tend to be in favor of the shotgun method is it is statistically more likely that we'll get good as a consequence of that. That they'll actually be able to put out something that's worth the damn. Using Star Wars as a specific example, we have gotten The Mandalorian as a consequence of that. We've gotten Clone Wars Season 7 and The Bad Batch as a consequence of that. We have also gotten a lot of Cluch as a consequence of that. That's the shotgun method. That's how it works. So, now that's my opinion. I'm not saying that is codified fact. I'm just saying that's generally speaking why I tend to be in favor of the shotgun method. Because we almost always do get some good stuff along with all the other crap that comes out, right? We'll see. Yeah, GW is exactly what I was talking about. Like I said, I bet you haven't even heard of half the Warhammer 40k games that got shotgunned out there. But, you know. Oh, okay, that's an easy one. Yeah, I know, right? It's okay, we've got some Mega Man news. Dive is coming out on the PC! Yes, I'm gonna need a base Delta Zero on Capcom. I repeat, a base Delta Zero on Capcom. Please, just nuke it all. Just nuke it all. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. Overwatch 2 is not the only Actiblizzard game in development hell right now, Pika, but yes. Yeah, danger close. Danger close. I'll go for the far one. Oh, no, he's gonna get there first. I'll go for the middle one. No, right. Let's actually get a proper continuation to the strategy side of things. Correct, Javin. That's the one. And I've actually played it. In fact, I showed it off on camera during the Mega Man block. It's garbage. It's not mobile gaming. It is mobage. And for those of you who've never heard me use that term, mobage is mobile garbage. I want to distinguish mobile games, which exist, from mobile garbage. Mega Man Dive is mobile garbage. It's dreck. It's total dreck. My favorite part is how X will actually... This is a minor thing to point out, but it says so much. My favorite thing is how X will shoot behind him without aiming or changing his animation at all, because it's not programmed to. He just shoots at whatever you tap. There's just so little effort put into anything. It's okay, though. You can get several of your favorite Mega Man characters in bikinis. That makes it all worthwhile. I do agree the artwork is good. Of course it is. That's what they're selling. Yeah, exactly, Darth Tyrant. That is a good comparison. No, yeah, absolutely casual. Like I said, I'm not saying that shotgunning works. I'm saying that I believe shotgunning works, and there's a big distinction between that. Listen, if you don't want robots in bikinis, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I can't make a good Mega Man game. That's forbidden. That's abandoned under the laws of the great Capcom. Sorry, I'm done. Moving on. Yeah, no, we got Warhammer Mechanicus as a specific method of the GW. We got several of the Dawn of Wars. We got, Space Hulk came out as a result of that. Yeah, we can have a StarCraft 4X game. Oh, I don't want to fan gush too much, but the possibilities have already exploded in my mind of what we could get as a result of this. Yeah, we couldn't get Vermintide. That's a great example. Vermintide. We could have gotten Vermintide. Or we did get Vermintide. Space Marine, yep. And Space Marine 2, which is coming out still. Yeah, exactly. This opens doors that have been glued shut. Who knows what we're going to get, but at least we might get something. Christ. We could get something. We could get StarCraft. We could get, like, first-person shooters. We could get actual indie games set within that space. Because this is a true thing. What they could do is they could say, all right, so of the dozens of indie companies that we own, you make an indie StarCraft game. You make an indie Warcraft game. That's a thing that can happen if this goes through. So yeah, forgive me for being a little excited, even just purely from the game perspective, because I think stuff can actually happen. And yeah, as Reggie Brock says, it's aggravating how much this is a gush of fresh air because of how much has not been possible for years at this point. I agree, Hazardous. I agree that this is reason to celebrate. I am hopeful, so hopeful, that this will be an increase in quality of standard and quality of living for the people who work at Actiblizzard, and I am hopeful that we will get some good games out of this. So if you want to take one last takeaway from all of this crap, that's my takeaway. I am actually hopeful. I do think this is a good move. I've said that before, and I stand by it. I will eat my crow if I'm wrong. Yeah, I was going to say, it's not like Microsoft is invincible. Rare. Microsoft massively mishandled Rare. That's a perfect example of them just stumbling with that. So it's not like they do everything right, but... Anyways. God, I hope not. I don't like eating crow. That's just gross. Blech. Little parasite infested. Anyways. That's everything, I think. Let me double check my notes. Yeah, I'll get, like... I don't know if I could eat a hat, but like I can hope I'll eat something on camera. I'll come up with something to eat on camera if I'm wrong. I could eat Dawn Crow, although I'm not into cannibalism, so that's just that's whatever. Okay, so I talked about the unioning. I talked about the deal is not happening. I talked about the comments. I talked about the reality of the deal. I talked about Bobby Kotick. I talked about Phil Spencer. I talked about the Department of Justice. I talked about the contracts. I talked about the merger. And I talked about the provisos. I think that is actually everything. I apologize for a 2-hour Loreweek. I knew this was going to be a big one. This is why I did so much effort and work to research this week, to make sure I could actually speak with some level of authority and due diligence on this matter, which so far I've seen a grand total of 2 other gaming outlets actually speak on this in an actual proper manner. One of them is Game Rant, of all people. I never would have, I guess studios, I never would have expected Game Rant to actually put out a factual document on this crap. But yes, it's time for Streaminations. I'll go ahead and pop out of here. Thank you everyone for the groups. We'll never play FF14 again. It is time for Streaminations. I'm not sure which episodes we're covering today. Because my mind has been in 1,000 other directions. It looks like today we are covering, dramatic pause, Season 9, Episode 5, The Point of No Return, and Season 9, Episode 6, The Common Ground. So that's what we're covering today. I will be back in 25... And yeah, actually, hang on. Before we cut off. Dr. Tyron mentioned something. How many of you like this approach to the Loreweek format? Doing this when there's news. In other words, like we didn't do Loreweeks the last couple of weeks. There's nothing to talk about. Rather than trying to come up with something or just having a 10-minute Loreweek. I have a further bit of a question mark. How many of you got... So I did actually put a Twitter announcement, and I did put a Discord announcement. Is that sufficient? That there was going to be a Loreweek? Is there something else you'd like me to also announce it on, is kind of what the question is here. Because I want to make sure that people are aware that there's going to be a Loreweek. And I will always make that announcement on Saturday to make sure that people know in advance. That's true. Anybody who follows the streams will know that way as well. And I'll always say it during streams, too. And I mentioned it. I mentioned it on stream several times, including yesterday. Yes, Jesse Ward, there is, I think. So there's actually a YouTube "We Totally Want to Be a Social Network" feature, which I mock and deride because it's stupid. But if you want me to start doing posts on there too, I can do that. Yeah, hang on. Let me pull this up. I think I've posted here like twice ever. 3 times. I've posted here 3 times total. And all of them were theater announcements. But I could go ahead and do a post there saying there will be an announcement on Saturday. If that's something you guys want, done. You know, absolutely. Let me do a test really quick. Let me make sure this is the right thing, so don't leave just yet. Let me do a test. See, that's super not true, Geludo, because I've seen how much Lore Reloaded gets figures on that. It's actually kind of silly. Hang on, how do I make a post? Here we go. So make a post. Let me make sure that this is how this works. This is a test to make sure this works. And that's all I'm going to say. Post. So the question then becomes, how many of you see that? And I'll just wait a moment and see if people can go check in their various methods. I want to make sure that's the right thing I'm posting to as well, that I'm using the right tab and the right button and all that. I'm sorry, Imperial Star Destroyer. I don't really have a good answer for that. I've thought about that several times. Like, I could push it back, but that causes some other issues. If it makes you feel any better, this is definitely kind of an in-between thing, since we're probably going to discontinue Sundays in general after we finish MLP. And then we'll kind of... on YouTube. So you know, if someone could see something on YouTube, then it might be visible there. I guess, you know what? Hang on. So I actually log in on my phone on a separate YouTube account, because I'm not an idiot. Find something here. Someone's already responded. I knew it. Give me a second here. When would I do Streaminations? When we get back to doing them. It's really the answer there. Streaminations are going to be a long-term thing. Don't mistake me. They're definitely going to be a thing. Ocean Gaming says, oh, whoa? Ooh-woo? How do you pronounce that? I mean, that's fine, Lord Haramont, but it sounds like between Twitter, YouTube, and Discord, and stream, it sounds like that'll be sufficient if I keep track of it on all 4 of those things. And yes, shoutouts and thank you to Mr. Red for the Metroid Dread highlights. I apologize that I actually forgot until the end of the night to post those, but I did post it. I remembered. Oh, it's a cat face. Well, what's an Owo then? Is that a cat face with the cat being like big eyes? Is that what that is? Why does the cat have big eyes? What are you doing to that cat? Okay, and it looks like there is a notification. Got it. Okay. So, okay. Oh, and if we could get an invite to whoever asked for Discord invite, if anybody's on to do that. I know Bregwin isn't here. I think Valvedrix left because she hates me. All cats have big eyes. That's not true. I've seen cats with tiny little eyes. They're very cute. Can you do invites, Dice? I actually don't remember. If you can, do it, please. Yeah, by all means. Yes, the announcement on Discord did have an add everyone on it, if you go and check. I did do that yesterday. I'm actually double-checking my statement to make sure that I'm not an idiot on this. Checking the Discord, stream announcements. There will be a Loreweek tomorrow. Yesterday at 7:02 p.m. There will be a Loreweek tomorrow. We'll be discussing the microactivism news, as well as testing a new Twitch plugin at everyone. So that is there, and that is part of that. So we are doing it on Discord. We are doing it on YouTube. I'll start doing that going forward. We are doing it on stream. We are doing it on Twitter. I think that's everything. I think that's going to be everything. I think that covers it all. So that way everyone can have nice and open news that we're going to have a lore week. Otherwise, we'll just cover Streaminations. As a fresh reminder, we will be finishing. So I know not everybody into My Little Pony. I can't imagine why you aren't. It's a great show. I'm joking. I can absolutely understand why people aren't into My Little Pony, but I should probably go ahead and mention that the Streaminations is not a My Little Pony thing. It's a show thing. The Streaminations format has been tested on My Little Pony, but we are going to be covering new shows in the future. When we are done with My Little Pony, we're on the final season right now. It'll probably take about roughly 2 more months. Sometimes in March is when we will be finishing up MLP. When we finish that up, I'm going to double check to make sure I get the order right, but we already have several other Streaminations which have already, as of now, been funded. These include, but are not limited to, in order, The Mandalorian, Season 1 and 2, Arcane, which I don't know what else to call that, Tangled, which is a series on Disney+, and then Clone Wars Season 7. We might move Tangled around there to kind of bake the Star Wars stuff next year. I haven't 100% decided on that. But that's where that's at with regards to future streamations. When's the next Loreweek? I have no idea. I will tell you, I will always announce Loreweeks on Saturday, because I don't know if there's going to be a Loreweek until Saturday. That is the entire point of this announcement system. As of this exact moment in time, it is within the realm of possibility we will have news and worthy stuff to talk about next Sunday. I have no idea. I will not know until Saturday. Now, Imperial Star Destroyer asks, when streamations are restarted, when will they be restarted? I have no idea. I'm not even 100% sure we'll be canceling them yet. By canceling, I mean pausing them. Nah, I sincerely doubt it, Lord Aramon. I mean, the last 2 Sundays have been fine, and we've just had nothing to discuss. So, that's that. I'm fine with not doing a Loreweek. I'm fine with jumping right into streamations. And that's probably going to be the format going forwards. If we want to move that around, if we want to move around the specific schedule, we can, and we can discuss that when we get there. Oh, that, Lord Hammermont. I mean, I could always double my prices for streamations, which I might do, because we already have probably about another year of streamations built up, I think. How long is Tangled? Tangled's pretty big. That took a while. So, anyways, will the Q&A thing go forward? No. If I can't get the bot working, the Q&A thing will not go forwards. However, if I can get the bot working, then the Q&A thing will go forwards. Speaking of which, I got a sub in the middle of all of that from Gossi. Hang on one second. I didn't even see what it went towards. Chat's moving by pretty quickly today. That's strange. Hang on a second. There we go. Yeah, that's nice. It doesn't say that for anything. What do you want to put that towards, Gossi? Thank you very, very much, Gossi, as always. If you do know what you want to put that towards, please let me know. And let me know quickly, because I'm at the end of the thing here. I feel like I'm not even being able to keep up with chat. My goodness. AC Valhalla. That is super possible. Done. Okay. I think that's everything. Good. Let's go ahead and move on. I will go ahead and cut off in about 25-ish minutes. We'll be back with MLP, and then I'll see the rest of you Tuesday, when we'll be continuing whatever the game we're playing is, which is Sunless Seas, is what we're playing right now. So,